Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for your time and your interest in our ConnectMe program. What I would like to do is share with you a brief overview of how ConnectMe started in the first place, and it actually originated from the Navigator. I'm sure most of you have heard about the Navigator. We've been around for 18 years now, and my background in franchising runs about 40-plus years. And I've actually sat in every possible chair around the conference table with the exception of being a franchise operator. And it's very simple. It's because I'm not the right profile to be a franchisee. I don't want to follow rules. I want to make the rules. And what happened was, in my career, working with hundreds of companies all over the world, we would all scratch our heads wondering if the person we just granted a franchise to, and it doesn't matter what you call it, granted, award, whatever, any new franchise operator that's brought into the system, we'd scratch our heads wondering whether or not that person was a good candidate, a good fit, or not. And the problem is, having been a franchisor 4 times myself, is you really don't know if they are a good fit or not until generally 18 to 24 months down the line. And at that point, it's actually too late. Because if it's not a good fit, then they have eroded the market, they've provided inferior products or services to the end user, and market share diminishes, it does not increase. So I wanted to be predictive. I wanted to know if we could be predictive in the recruitment and the selection of franchise operators. So we started in real-life consulting projects. My original company is Franchise Architects that I started in 1979. And in real-life consulting projects, we tried to use as many of the tools we could get our hands on. Personality profiling tools, assessment tools. I'm sure a lot of you have actually taken some of those tools, and they're all very good tools. But what we found out was they weren't measuring the right things for franchising. They would identify somebody's personality, but they wouldn't identify whether or not they could execute the business model. Fast forward, we assembled a mastermind of industrial, clinical, organizational, and behavioral psychologists in the late 80s, and we launched the Franchise Navigator in the late 90s. It was about 7+ years of research. And the Franchise Navigator, and we'll get into it a little bit, because this webinar today is not about the Navigator. It's about ConnectMe, which is a product of the Navigator. But the Navigator has become the oldest, the most reliable franchisee profiling and assessment tool on the marketplace. As a matter of fact, we have validation from an Arizona State University professor that because of what we do and the science in which we use for the Navigator, we have between a 90 and a 95% probability of being able to identify a high performer for a particular brand. So let's fast forward. Let's talk about ConnectMe, what ConnectMe is, because I think you're going to find it absolutely amazing, and you're going to find it a very useful tool. Now, what we're able to do with ConnectMe is actually make a match. Now, if you look at Webster's definition of a match, and we're really the only ones that can do this, we take pride in that. The definition of a match is when you are, or somebody or something is similar to somebody or something. So it's when somebody or something is either similar or identical to something else, which means there has to be 2 parts. There has to be 2 parts in order for a match to occur. And we're the only organization that can actually make the match, and I'll share with you because it all comes down to the Navigator profile that is either created for a brand or is assigned to a brand. So we take pride in it. The ConnectMe, by the way, is not new. We've been working ConnectMe for quite some time. We've already made matches for franchisors. Matter of fact, one of our franchisors that we recently made a match said, "This is great. It's just like a matchmaking process." and it is. It's like the eHarmony of buying a franchise. So we're going to share with you a little bit about how it works. But again, the Navigator and the premise of the Navigator is that franchising is all about people doing business with people. It's no longer about how good the product or service is. That's table stakes. In today's economic environment, you have to have a good product or service, and it has to validate at the consumer level. But the key today is not top down, it's bottom up. It's about the quality of the people that are delivering that product or to that service to the end user for usage or consumption. Once we create a profile, all inbound owner candidates are measured against it. The Navigator, and I would welcome a lot of you to, we'll let you test drive the Navigator. The assessment itself takes less than 10 minutes to complete, and the results are visible within 3 seconds. As a matter of fact, we've tried to beat it to the inbox in Outlook, and it doesn't, we can't beat it. It happens way too fast. But I'd like to talk about the results, and we've got hundreds of companies that are using the Navigator. One client recently reported that their first year sales have jumped from $420,000 to $550,000 a year, and they attribute that to the Navigator, to the selection of the people that they bring in as the franchise operators. The successes go on. We had one company that had 38% increase in same-store sales after the first year. We have one client that said break-even for new franchisees has been reduced by a third of the time because they're finding the right people. And more important is, I've been in franchise sales, and I can't tell you the number of times I've tried to track somebody down, I've tried to communicate with somebody, and it turns out they just weren't a good fit. And the Navigator eliminates that from happening. You no longer will waste time with the wrong candidates in your system. So basically what the Navigator does is it surveys the existing operators and employees within an organization, and then we can determine who the high performers, the mid-performers, and the poor performers are and why. So the Navigator itself is the assessment. We create a scorecard, and I'll show you exactly how it happens. Let me tell you what the Navigator is and why it's different than anybody else. And it's not a personality profile because we found it's not about personality. It's about can somebody execute a business model, a franchise model, and that involves skills. And there's basically 3 skills in any business: sales and marketing skills, business administration and HR management skills, and product or technical skills. And I can share with you, with my background, that one of the problems franchisors have is they expect their franchisees to be good at all 3. That's not going to happen because people who are good at all 3 don't buy franchises. They go off and they do it on their own. So we identify which of these skills is really the most critical in any business. And by the way, this is also the difference between a single unit operator and a multi-unit operator. A single unit operator generally needs to be proficient at sales and marketing, where the multi-unit operator needs to be able to manage teams of people. Whether it's home services, it doesn't really matter. So oftentimes when somebody comes in and says, okay, I want one unit to start off with, but ultimately I want to become a multi-unit operator, you'll know in advance whether or not they've got the right stuff to do that. The second thing, and this is the secret sauce to the Navigator, it's all about values, an individual's value system. So think about this. Everybody on the call, everybody on the planet, we're all wired differently, just like computer software. We're wired differently. We have our own individual value system, and the value system is instilled in family. It's then affected by our professional and our personal lives, and basically what happens is it becomes our operations manual on how we live our lives. And whether you realize it or not, but when a decision needs to be made, especially a franchisee that's making a transition into a new life, when a decision needs to be made or activity needs to be conducted, we all dig deep into our value system. We try to anchor it towards something that we've experienced in the past positive or negative. The result is we bring it back up, and when we bring it back up, it comes up in the form of behavior. So value is a belief system that an individual has where they have an emotional investment. It's their own core set of rules. It's how they operate their life. It's their own individual operations manual, and the result is behavior that's congruent to an individual's values. So the Navigator is a skills, values, and behavioral assessment tool. There's 4 profiles that constitute the Navigator. We're not going to get into this, but everybody has all 4 profiles. Each are equally as important, but everybody has a dominant and everybody has a subordinate. And that dominant is what drives that person. It's what drives their decision-making process. And if you know up front which is the dominant, you know how to talk to, how to communicate with, and how this person needs to be gone through the vetting process. But, everybody's trying to come up with a one-size-fits-all solution in franchising. Never going to happen. It's never going to happen because everybody's different. Everybody's wired differently. You can't run everybody through the same pipeline and expect positive results. So we tend to create it with our clients. We create a scorecard. We have each of the existing franchise operators, and in some cases, general managers, assistant managers. One of our clients had us go all the way down to the cashiers and create a profile. The Navigator scores come out in percentages, and then we have our clients actually grade and score the performance of the franchisees or the employees using their own KPIs, using their own key performance indicators, meaning all of a sudden now the Navigator becomes customized to each brand. And I have to share with you, we've worked with hundreds of companies all over the world. Even though it might be in the same space, 2 concepts might be in the same space, there are often very different profiles for each. So what happens is we create a profile, a statistically valid profile, and we have a team of statisticians, and what they'll do based on the analysis is they'll create a range, a minimum and a maximum between 0 and 100% for each of the 4 profiles. And that becomes that company's high performer profile. And when a candidate takes the Navigator, and it's generally done right after the first or second phone call, you can tell instantly, graphically, is that person a good fit or not. So the key here is we create a high performer profile for each of the brands, and that's what enables us to create the match, is to match people to that high performer profile. And we do this statistically. We don't just come up with this stuff. These are actual scorecards developed by clients. Window Genie just announced, and we just publicized it within the last few weeks, that when they choose and select somebody that fits the high performer profile of the Navigator, it's the difference of $120,000 in annual sales. So Rick Manell says, why bring in a franchisee that's not going to be able to perform when we can spend our time and our energy with somebody who's best suited for our particular brand? So here's how ConnectMe works. And those of you that are interested, we have published up on YouTube a video called The 7 Common Mistakes Made in Franchising. I would suggest taking a look at it. I want to focus in on number 3, fishing, because this is the way most traditional franchise sales has taken place. And that is, not knowing the profile, you cast a wide net. You catch a lot of fish. And then you have to pluck the right fish from that net. How do you know which is the right fish? You don't know. It's almost as if putting blindfolds on and rolling the dice. We eliminate that from happening. And the way we eliminate that from happening is we create the profile. And the profile for each of the clients includes the Navigator profile, the geographic preference of where they want to grow, and the liquid capital requirements that it takes to get into that particular business model. So we have all this data, All of this data has been loaded in to the back-end system of the navigator. Now, my educational background's not business or franchising. I was actually trained in architecture. So my model of the world is bottom up. And we could have blown the ConnectMe out years ago, but we needed the validation, we needed the testing, we needed to ensure it was working and it was working properly. And we do have a couple hundred people already who have gone through the ConnectMe program. So what happens is, so if you can imagine on the left-hand side, we've got all these profiles. We actually know more about who a franchisor should be going after than they do. And then on the other side, we have the opportunity seekers. Now, David McKinnon from Service Brand said to me at breakfast recently, he said, people don't get out of bed, stand up and say, I'm going to go buy a franchise. They just don't do it. They buy franchises because they're in a time of transition, and they would love to get into a business if somebody would point them in the right direction. Well, where are they going to go in order to get the right direction? Well, this is where ConnectMe comes in. And again, we have made successful matches. So on the call with us today is Mario Miller. Most of you know Mario. I've known Mario for a long time. She's VP of ConnectMe Services and is handling and coordinating all of the activity related to the ConnectMe. She has also studied and gone through a certification process for the Navigator. So she is a certified coach of the Navigator. So Mario, I'll turn it over to you, and you can share a little bit about what happens when the opportunity seekers take the ConnectMe survey.
Okay, thanks, and welcome everyone. Thanks for being on the call. I appreciate your time, and we'll try to keep this to the time that we had originally said, so I'll talk kind of quickly. What's very interesting for me being on the ConnectMe side and brokering, working with these clients for you, is that I'm finding it's a very different lead. So I was actually trained to broker back in 2006 with Mark Kickenap, the late and great Mark Kickenap's group, and had several very successful years brokering, got into some consulting work, and got back into brokering a couple of years ago. And what I can tell you is that because of the very interesting way we have to generate a lead flow, we're finding better qualified people coming through the process. And when I say qualified, you could imagine my standpoint being here handling all of the leads that come through the process. These are individuals that are clearly, generally speaking, at that time of transition. They have a need for a change. I'm also finding they're financially qualified people. So I have a lot of live candidates right now that are $1 million net worth, 750 to more than $1 million net worth and such. These people tend to be motivated more than the organic leads that I've gotten, when I brokered in the past, more than purchase leads and all the other ways that we as brokers generate a lead flow. And as I said, they're motivated to take some action. They're very easy to work with. I even looked at, when I first got involved back in August, Craig gave me some candidates that had gone through the process last year, and in talking to a handful of them, what I found was that they actually purchased multiple units. So a handful of the people I talked to said, no, thank you, we're already in franchising. I asked them what they did, and they purchased multiple unit deals, 2 of which were over 4-packs. So we're finding a qualified and verified lead. They are definitely pre-broker leads. So these are individuals that are not being called by 5 or 6 brokers, and they actually have paid to take a survey. So what I just want to mention is that there are other surveys on the market in different groups that are out there. And unlike those systems whereby you have a candidate and you're asking them to take an additional step in a process, take a survey, and now we're going to tell you, what you're matched to. That's not this process. This process is the survey is generating a qualified lead. So it's a very interesting model that Craig has put together. It's very exciting to have another way to generate leads that you're not going to see from another source. The ConnectMe takes about 10 minutes to complete, and the customer will find out about franchising. Now, they're not given their matched companies. We will handle these leads like we handle any brokered lead. We have a sophisticated process. As I said, I was trained by some terrific people in this industry, and we do, in fact, go through all about them, all about their needs, all about their lifestyle, their family, the whole picture. Financial expectations, we get that in line. We make sure that we go through beyond what I know in the back of my mind they're matched to. We go deeper. We go deeper than that to broker these leads the appropriate way. And they're also given a fantastic workbook that we walk them through, educating them about franchising and about how to be a good candidate. And then, through the process, by the third phone call, we're actually introducing matched leads to them and giving them over to you. So, Craig, anything else you wanted me to cover?
Oh, that's great. I would like to say that one of the differentiating factors of ConnectMe versus all of the other alternatives on the marketplace, and we've had the candidates articulate this to us, is we care about them. We're not just interested in selling them a franchise. So one of the deliverables that we give them is their own personal profile report. And this report identifies their navigator profile and then goes into detail into their own personal strengths, weaknesses, areas of focus, so that by the time they get ready to go into business for themselves, they've got a pretty good handle, a pretty good idea in terms of who they are and where the potential barriers are going to be. And then in addition to that, we also provide them with a workbook on how to evaluate a franchise. And so we take an educational process with them, bottom up, and we care about these people. And ultimately, we want them to find the right franchise. Now, let's go back to the definition of the match. If somebody or something resembles somebody or something, that's when the match occurs. And what we explain to our leads and the people that come through the ConnectMe is, listen, here's your profile. Here's who you are. And here's the profiles of the high performers within these particular brands. You resemble them. You have the right liquid capital, right amount of money. You're in the right geographic area. We walk them through the process, and we say, listen, you resemble them. You've got the right elements. The odds for success are in your favor. So, and one of the things we do advise them is that if they're talking to franchisors that are not part of ConnectMe, always ask them. Always ask the franchisor, what's the profile of your high performers? And do I resemble that profile? Because that's key. So the way the match is made is that each individual gets their profile report. We know the geographic area where they want to grow. We know the geographic area where the franchisor wants to grow. And we know the liquid capital requirements. So from the franchisor standpoint, all of that information is loaded into the back-end computer system, and then the inbound candidates get matched to it. So, again, they're not going to match to everyone that's in the inventory, and there may be multiple matches. We had somebody that matched to 7 different companies recently, and what we did was, through consulting with them and through a process of elimination, we brought it back down. We reduced it to 3 companies, and it's those 3 companies that they're looking at right now. So we match people to people, not people to businesses. And we're the only ones that can do it because we've got the high performer profile. So what happens is that the customer, when they go through the assessment, they've clicked on a permission button, and they allow us, they know that we are ultimately going to be sending their information to the matched franchise companies. We keep it in our CRM, and they get finally the information of who they match to. So it's very collaborative. It's very consultative on our part. And the match that the franchise companies receive, it says success. A match has occurred, and they become a registered customer with ConnectMe. And we do get a success fee. And that success fee is negotiable with all the brands because everybody knows, your fees are all different. So we put a little comparison together, and the one thing that we want to emphasize is that the Navigator has been in business for a long time. The Navigator's been in business for 18 years. The ConnectMe's been in business for about 11 years. Everybody else that's out there has tried to emulate the Navigator, and you can't get to it. You can't get to the secret sauce. We have the source code protected. Nobody can. They can come up with something similar, but it's not the real McCoy. From an objectivity standpoint, the ConnectMe is incredibly objective. It's not me. It's not you. It's not It's not somebody saying to them, "This is what I think you should be looking at." The way the brokers are going to do it. Our motivation is we want to do the right thing for the person. The motivations of others, we don't really know. But we do know that ours is incredibly accurate. We have it validated from a well-known professor. And we give them a lot of deliverables. We under-promise and over-deliver to the candidate. So we build a friendship. We build a bond with them that we're a trusted business advisor, and we have their interests in mind, not ours. Now, how do you join the ConnectMe? If you're already an existing Navigator client and we've already developed your profile, there is no fee to get in. And I know some of you on the call today are Navigator clients, and we do have contracts. I thank you for joining, and you're set, and there's no set term, and we're ready to go, and in most cases, we've already negotiated a fee. Now, what if you're not a Navigator client? What if you don't have a profile? Well, we have done thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of profiles. Our statisticians and our research people have gone back in to our database by industry, by business model, by segment. We have created profiles. So we can actually assign a profile to a company on a preliminary basis until we actually end up doing the Navigator research and creating the profile. So for new franchisor clients, there is a fee. It's an upfront fee of $2,000, but we refund it from the first 2 success fees, and those success fees are negotiated. So in essence, we sell a couple of franchises for you. There's no cost to get into the inventory for ConnectMe. It is done on an annual renewal. You have the ability to say yes or no, green or red, anytime you want to, and we'll provide you with a profile that we will use in the ConnectMe process. That profile will be branded, and that survey assessment will be branded with your logo, and we'll even let you use it on your own with 10 potential candidates of your choice. So you can test drive the Navigator. You can test drive the effectiveness. But once we sell the first 2, then you need to make the commitment to have the profile done for your particular company. It makes a lot of sense anyway to do that. You know, I've often said selling a franchise to the wrong person is worse than not selling a franchise at all. Those of you that are in the recruitment process where you get measured by points on the board, not only can we help you put points on the board, but we'll help you put points on the board with the right people. Those of you that are in more of an executive position, you're measured by market share. And when you have franchisees that can execute the business model, you have greater market share. So we want to sell more franchises to the right people. And we'll show you how to do that using ConnectMe. It's very simple. The startup process is a matter of a couple of weeks, unless we go through the benchmarking, in which case you need to plan probably about 60 days. So we have our own lead generation program. As Mario said, we've got a couple of hundred people that are already in the database, and right after the first of the year, we are going to turn this faucet on, and we are going to generate a lot of leads. And we do it differently than everybody else does. And as Mario said, it's organic. These are people that come to us first before they go anywhere else. So at this point, does anybody have any questions about how the ConnectMe works? They are led to a website. We have a link that they go to, and I'll share with you what it looks like. Let me get rid of this. Okay. It's part of Franchise Navigator, franchisenavigator.com, and once they're directed to a particular page, which is the ConnectMe page. And again, they do pay for it, because if they don't, it's worth every penny they pay for it. And we want them to have skin in the game. So we go to ConnectMe. This is what they see. We do have a helpline, so they can contact us if they have any questions, and we'll show you which franchises are the best fit for you. And we believe we're the only ones that can do it. We even offer them a 1-hour life coaching session with our certified coaches. We've got 14 coaches now that are certified. So it's really a consultative process, and they like it. They like it because we take an interest in them. And it's like the old saying, if you help enough people get what they want, you get what you want. And we know that the rewards for us are going to be there if we do the right thing for the people that are looking for the right franchise. It's really it's a game changer. And we certainly hope that a lot of you on the call, those of you that are Navigator clients, you'll continue with us. And those of you that are not Navigator clients, we've made it really easy to become part of the inventory of ConnectMe. Any questions? If not, I'm going to end. Okay. The process, one of the questions is, if we become a Navigator client, how long does that process take to create the profile? But to be honest with you, we generally plan around 60 days. A lot of it depends on the relationship you have with your franchisees. We make it very collaborative for them to participate in the benchmarking, and as a result, we average between 70 and 80% of a franchisor's franchisee population. With Jiffy Lube, we didn't get anywhere near that because they've got so many, but we had enough that it became statistically valid. Well, if you have any questions, we will. We've got your information. You know how to get in touch with Mariel. We'll send you a copy of the video from today, and we won't wish you luck. We don't believe in luck. We believe in success, and we believe that the Navigator and the ConnectMe is the best way to obtain that success. Thanks, everybody, for joining, and we look forward to working with you and to helping to build your distribution system with the right people.